Hi, this is Nancy with On Point TV, and we are live. We're a little bit late today because traffic in Grand Rapids is a little bit crazy, and it's all about that, Michigan roads that you hear about. So there is construction literally on every road I possibly want to go down. So it takes us a little longer to get home. So everything's all set. We're ready to go with part 5 of the Tranquil Stars. So as a reminder, this is the Tranquil Stars book. Whoops, it got caught. So this is the Tranquil Stars book, and today we're going to be working on, it's actually in here, this block right here. So we'll be working on technically month number 4, but this is our 5th one because there was 2 different techniques used in this particular one. Last week when we got together, we made what I was calling a magic triangle block. But we have a couple of viewers that piped in and said, Nancy, that's called a cat in a cradle, I think. So thank you very much. It's called Cats in the Cradle, maybe in real life, but in the book it's called the Magic Triangle. This is what it looks like on the purple quilt. I'm not showing you the whole purple quilt. And we're going to be working on the square in a square. So these side blocks, can you see that? Okay, these side blocks and the center block. So we're going to talk about a square in a square today. Before we start, I'm going to show you that this is the Learning to Quilt book. There is a square in the Learning to Quilt book also. That's available on the On Point website. Keeping in mind you can buy the hard copy of both of these, or for 10 bucks less you can get the e-book, and then you can print it yourself if you want. And then also the pin cushion, there's the pin cushion pattern. Okay, so we're going to start. You know what I did is I got everything cut out. Everything is cut, so nothing fancy there. Just cut the 2 5/8 inch squares, 2 3/4 inch squares, and cut those on the diagonal. But I got to thinking about how I put my fabrics away, and so I thought I'd show you that. When I'm working on an entire quilt, so I've got lots of different fabrics going on, I pull all those fabrics into a tote. So it's actually back here. So it's kind of a bigger tote, has a variety of fabrics that can go well with this. And when I'm working on it, because I'm oftentimes cutting off a piece of it, spray sizing it to stiffen it up a little bit, and then I'm cutting out the pieces I want, there's always little bits left. So I'll just take those little bits and tuck them inside. So this is how I fold my fabric. You can go back and see that another time. But then when I'm working on it, I'll just tuck them in there. So then when it comes time that, oh my goodness, I need a such and such square, I can look at these pieces. They've already been spray sized, and I'm oftentimes able to find what I need right there from those pieces. So I'm saving a little bit of fabric, and I'm saving some time because they've already been spray sized. If I've cut them like that, I know they're spray sized, okay? All right, so we're gonna take these, and the block today, I need technically 8 of them, but we're just gonna make a couple of them, is the center block, which, where did I do with my blocks that I actually made? Anybody? Anybody? I'll find them sooner or later. I'll find them. Sorry, I don't know what we did with them. We'll find them later, or we'll just make all brand new ones. This will be fun. Okay, so we're going to be making the center block, which will have the kind of gold orange with the black going around it. And then the red one is the one that you'll want to pay placement attention to, because you'll have 2 of a cream on one side and then 2 of a cream on the other side. So that one just takes a smidge more thought in the whole process. Everything is already cut. My machine is already set up, so we're going to go to the machine and start sewing. So let's take our pieces. Maybe I'll find those blocks I made over there. You never know. They could pop up anytime. They could be anywhere. All right, let's go this way.
The cat took them.
The cat took them. It could happen. He's a big cat. He eats a lot. All right, they're not over here either. That's really, really odd. Okay, all right, so we're going to go right to the sewing machine. Okay. Coming on over here. I've got my machine set up with the scant 1/4 inch. I've already got my leader in. I've got my guidelines for quilting, so I do have a new package of it, so that's what the new package of it looks like. I do purchase quite a few of these. And we're going to start, I've got my leader going, and we're going to start with the orange one. So this is going to be the orange with the black all the way around it. So when you start, you want to first find the center of the block. So I'm just going to crease and crease. And that gives me 2 little creases. So then I'll know where to place the triangle. So now on the triangle, I'm just going to put a little crease, and I'm going to match up those 2 centers right here. Oh, Gina found the blocks. I'll show them to you in a minute. Okay, that's just too funny. The things I lose. All right. Starting with the leader, I'm just going to sew that. Now I could have put a pin in it, but I don't really find that I need to put a pin in it. So on my second block that has the red center, again, I'm just going to take and do a temporary crease. So nothing super big and, you know, creasy. So I'm not going to do it with my iron, I guess is what I'm saying there. And I'm going to take that, place that there, and sew. Now, I'm going to reach around Athena so that I can cut off the back. So I like to do a couple of blocks at the time. So now instead of needing a leader again, I'm just going to work on my next block. I've already got the center creased. I'm going to take my next black triangle and crease that, place that, and sew. So you can do 2 sides before you need to press. So that'll make things go a little bit quicker for you. So remember with the red one where I was saying I needed to be careful of my placement, on the other side I've got one of my tans. This one has a different tan. So be careful with the placement. All right. Get to the end of this little guy. Grab my leader. Oops, maybe this way, yeah. And then go back over to my ironing board. So backing up a little bit, Athena. All right, here's our little portable ironing board. And Gina did find the blocks. These are the blocks that we are going to make. Thank you, Gina. Gina is actually on watching on the channel right now. So if you have any questions for her, you could actually ask Gina some questions and we'll try to answer them. So make them really interesting, okay? All right. So now we're going to press it. So as always, I'm going to press first down and then flip this up. And I love that because my piece has been spray sized, it's going to hold that crease really nicely. So that's the one, and then the other. All right, so I found my small little mat. So I'm going to, Athena, I'm going to move my iron over here. Get it out of the way a little bit. So I can bring my little mat in. Got all my little tools here. I'll explain why I have the glow tape out in a little bit. But what you want to do now is you want to cut off these extra ears, okay? So if you just line the ruler up with the edge of the block, then you can just slice those little ears off. I'm also noticing, and I'm hoping it's not going to make a huge difference, that my black triangle does not really seem to be centered. He's a little bit off. I'm thinking we'll be okay because this is made a little larger than we need it to be, so we will be squaring it up in the end. And when you're doing this, you really want to line up the horizontal line of the seam and the edge of the block. So then you know that everything is continuing to be square-ish. Okay, so now those are cut off and we're going to go back to the sewing machine.
Why did you fold the triangle?
I folded the triangle so that I could find the center of it. So I want to fold the square and then fold the triangle and then match those 2 little creases up to find so that they're centered. And obviously on one of the black ones I was a little bit off, so I'm going to pay closer attention this time, okay? So coming back here again, I'm going to do that same thing. Gonna fold the square first, making a little crease. Then I'm going to take my triangle and fold the triangle and place that little crease with the little crease of the square. Now, when it comes time that you're doing the second set of triangles, you'll also know that you're doing pretty good if this little valley and this little valley are about that 1/4 of an inch that we're kind of looking for. Okay. And the same with the black, folding and creasing. Now, if I'm doing something bigger, you'll see me sometimes, like on the New York Beauty, I'll actually take little notches. So instead of just folding it and creasing it, I'll take a little notch out of the fabric. This is so small that I don't think it's really necessary, but you could do that, and then you'd be matching up notch to notch, and that works out very nicely too. All right. Coming around to the back. That crease is already there, so I've got my second triangle. Sorry, am I moving too much?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, all right. Match up my crease to my crease. And one more little triangle and we'll be finished with our piecing. Crease the triangle. Now you could pre-crease everything. I've just never planned that far ahead. Kind of sitting down at the table and I do it all at once. So now, you know, because I said that this triangle was off center a little bit, there's not quite a 1/4 of an inch here. I think we're going to be okay, and we will know soon enough when it comes time to square this up. So just know that even though it looks like maybe it's not coming out exactly the way you think it should, there's probably a way to fix it in post-op, okay? All right, and then going back to my leader. All right, back to the ironing board, I mean. All right, so move this little guy. Whoops, put this forward. And so now I can kind of see, I was saying that that little guy was a little bit off center. He does look a little bit off center, doesn't he? My fingers are crossed. I think he's going to be okay anyway, because when my sister designed the quilt, she designed it so everything was going to be trimmed down a little bit so that we ended up with perfect little squares, and we love it when that happens. All right, I'm just going to put my iron right down there on the floor. It'll be fine. Okay.
Until I step on it.
Don't step. Well, we're not going back to the machine. You'll be okay. All right, so now it's time to do what I was just saying. My sister designed it so that these would be trimmed to 3.5 inches. So I took some of my glow tape. So this is the Omni Grid glow tape, and if you've watched my videos, you've seen me use this quite a bit. And I also, let me see if we can see this better.
Nancy, can you explain what the stiletto was when you were using it?
This is a stiletto. So this happens to be a kind of fancy one that this comes off and can be stored in here. And this one comes off and it's a seam ripper. So FYI, Gina can make these. So we're gonna start having some of these on the website for sale, but using the stiletto is kind of just like having a finger so that I can position things where I want it to go. So I'll use the stiletto quite often, especially if I'm not using pins. And oftentimes even when I'm doing, oh, hi. So if I'm doing curved piecing, I'll use the stiletto quite often. Kind of acts like as a third finger to help me keep everything in position, okay? All right, so now I marked up the ruler. So the ruler, I want to finish this block at 3.5 inches. So I put the tape at 3.5 inches. And then I wanted to find out what the center of 3.5 is, and I was told by some very responsible mathematics people that that would be 1 3/4 inches. So I used my Sharpie marker. Right there, I put a Sharpie marker dot, and I put with the Sharpie marker, I put 1 3/4, 1 3/4. Then over here, 1 3/4, and 1 3/4. And that is going to help us center this block when we're trimming it. So now, when I place the ruler on the block, here's my center. I'm gonna kind of, all right, eye that's in the middle. This is the 1 3/4. I want that to be on this square. Here's the 1 3/4. Oops, got to move him down. So now 1 3/4, 1 3/4 with a 1/4 of an inch in to the red. So I want to have that 1/4 inch for my next seam. Same thing up here. There's the 1 3/4. There's my 1/4 of an inch, 1 3/4, and there's my 1/4 of an inch. So that can just be a way for you to help analyze the block when you're squaring it up. So then I trimmed it on 2 sides. Now I'm going to spin the block around. And now all I have to do is use the 3.5 inch that I've already got marked with my glow tape. So that's lining up 3.5, 3.5. I'm always going to double check and go, oh yep, there it is, 1 3/4, 1 3/4 with a 1/4 of an inch in on either edge, so that I know that things are working the way that I want them to. And there is our little block. I trimmed the black one also, but here you see, but the magic of television, that's the one that Gina found. So there we go. That one's all done. That was the quickest lesson ever. And honestly, it's because it's a square and a square. I could have pulled out my die cutting machine and cut my squares and triangles with that. There's a way that you can do it with connecting corners. But then you're doing 4 extra corners and you end up with a lot of wasted fabric. So I don't think that I would ever take the time to think that I needed to do my square and a squares that way. This is just the simplest way to work it. It's really easy, very convenient, and very, very precise. So next week when we come back, we will be doing what would be considered a much trickier block. It is a V block, so it's a block that instead of just being like a flying geese, where everything is very nice and fat, I guess, it's one of those that has very elongated triangles. I think they're called equilateral triangles, is that right? I think, yep. So I'm going to show you 3 or 4 different ways to do equilateral triangles when we come back for part 6 of the Tranquil stars. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment here on the Facebook page, but you can always email me at quiltingwithnancy.com, especially if you want to include some pictures, because I really do like that.
quiltingwithnancy@gmail.com.
Oh, I'm sorry, quiltingwithnancy@gmail.com. Thank you, Gina. That's why she's here. Have a great day.